Hi. I don't know if anyone is watching yet. I don't actually think you are. Is anyone there? We got 2 people. Hi, Natalie. I think the numbers are 6. We're creeping up. 13. Okay, people are finding us. 26. 33. 39. Hi, Tamara. 44. Hi, Natalie. 49. We're doing well. Hello, Ravina. 52. Hi, Holly. Hi, Chloe. We're doing well. We're on 60. Hi. 62. Shall I just count for you? Is that going to really float your boat? Is that going to help you get on the clinical course? Let me introduce myself whilst people are joining, because of course if people can't get here on time, then the plan is that this will be available for replay afterwards. Just wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody who's watched last week's video. I think I'm right in saying that it was like 700 views or something like that. So this is clearly something that people are really screaming out for. My heart goes out to you guys. Like, as I said last time, it was 2007 that I applied, 2008 that I actually started my course. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. And I still remember it really clearly. We're up to 98. Whoop, whoop. I still remember it really clearly. And what I also remember is at the point where, so as I said, I don't know if you watched it last week. If you didn't, it might be a good time too, because I'm going to try not to repeat too much. But I applied a 3rd time and got on that time. But I got on when I was ready. I got on when I stopped comparing myself to other people. And I just felt, hi Anna, I just felt ready. I just felt like I had all my stuff together. I knew my areas of strengths. Good evening, Rob Wood. Very formal, thank you. I just knew where I was at, and I knew my weaknesses. Hi, Christina, beautiful name. Hi, Dominic. I just felt ready, and you know, when I was asked questions, I was able to think and just take a moment and just do the best I could. So I might not have given perfect textbook answers, but they clearly liked what they saw. So, top tip, like I'll say to any of my clients, I can't remember if I said it last time because I tried not to watch it back. I did watch a bit back. I think I'm a bit greasier today than I was last week. Just take a breath. If someone answers your question and your immediate response is, just take a breath. Just take a moment. And then answer and reflect. Reflect in action. It's always better rather than on action. So there's 3 types of reflection. Reflect in action, reflect on action, reflect after action. There's 3. Is on and after the same thing? I'm not sure. But yeah, 3, I'm sure 3, is it 4 types of reflection? Anyway, Google that. There's lots of different types of reflection. Preparation is key. Right. So, if anyone watched it last week, you will have heard me bemoaning the fact that I didn't have my slippers, and you will have heard me talking about my fridge. My fridge was making some weird noises. What I've done today is I have just silenced the dishwasher. I'm in my, like, you know, open plan kind of living area, so we've got the kitchen at that end, and the dishwasher was on, and the fridge does intermittently make weird ice eviction noises. Perhaps yours does as well. So hi Sophie. So yeah, we might have some of that going on, I'm not sure. But I said, maybe don't mention your fridge, maybe don't mention your slippers in your clinical training. Hi Emily. In your clinical training application form. And I reflected on action, people, and I felt bad for my slippers and bad for my fridge. And what I thought was, I'm going to give you some examples. Hi, Matt Daly. I'm going to give you some examples of how you can weave stuff in if it's relevant, so that you can shine through in your application, because if I was screening your form, I want to see you. Like I said, Jenna Louise, anyone know how I can access this, as I'm being told the address is invalid when I click on it? There isn't really an address, just jump on my page, Jenna. Just jump on. Is that how you guys have got on? Can anyone help Jenna? You just jump on my page, Good Thinking Psychological Services, and it, I think, just says you're live, and then you can click to watch. Is that how you guys have jumped on today? So the link was just to say you're coming, but the link to actually get on here, the event thing, is it's not like Zoom. It's just Facebook Live. Yeah, Emily, that's a yes, I think, to say how you got on. Lovely. So, shall I talk to you about my slippers? I know that you've tuned in to hear me talk about my slippers, haven't you? Okay, yeah, you just click the page and it was the top live. So, these are they. I love these beasts. I'll have had these, I think it'll be 3 years in December. There's a story behind them. So, this is very glamorous. He's going to reveal a lot about me. I love a Christmas competition. I can't help myself. I love it. I just go into like Advent fever. Come the 1st of December, I'm like on my phone, like what competitions can I enter? Well, I love it. I love it. I love it. And like anyone who's my Facebook friend on here that's watching will be like, yes, she does do that. She does share a lot of Christmas competitions. And these slippers came about because of that. So I entered and won, you'll be pleased to know, an Aldi competition. I won £25 in Aldi vouchers. I was thrilled. And I thought, I've got 2 kids and I've got a husband. I'm not going to buy carrots with this £25. I'm going to buy something that I really like and that I perhaps wouldn't usually buy. And I bought myself this very pair of beautiful sheepskin slippers. And why I would mention those on my form if I was doing that this time is because I would be up to 174 people, guys. I'm thrilled. Thank you for coming. Thank you for spending your Monday evenings with me thinking about slippers. What I would do, if it was important to me, I would reflect that actually what I want to be able to do for clients is to be able to have them achieve a sense of comfort, a sense of peace, acceptance. You know, these beasts are like perfectly moulded to my feet. They're not smelly either. I'm touching my feet a bit gross, but what I'd be doing is I'd be linking the association that I have with my slippers, and basically, does it make sense? Basically suggesting that I am grounded and comforted and myself when I'm in my slippers, and that I want other people to be able to have that, to be able to experience that for themselves and to do that for other people. Does that even make sense? Or is that just, does that sound like madness itself? Is that useful? Oh, good. Good, Jodie. Thank you. One person liked that. And my fridge, I would mention that if it was relevant. So if I had grown up in a situation where, oh, thanks, Anne. I will get back to you, Anne. What I would do is, if I'd grown up, I find myself thinking of Christian from Shades of Grey. Anyone read that? No, I haven't, definitely not. I haven't watched all the films either. Right, what I would do is, if I'd grown up in a time of deprivation where I didn't have enough food, and where actually it was really important for me to have my children not be starved and to nourish myself appropriately, then my fridge would be really important. Jenna, oh gosh. Maybe you can catch it on replay. I don't know what's going on, Jenna. Maybe it's an internet speed thing for you, because I think everybody else is getting on okay. I would mention my fridge if it was important to me, because it helped me notice where I've come from and where I am now. So very much in the reflection of living mindfully and not being traumatised. Lauren, I'm not sure you missed a lot. You can watch it on replay. It's about comfort. I would mention fridge if it was relevant to me. So what I'm saying is, don't fill your application with stuff about fridges and slippers, but please do fill stuff that's relevant to you. So don't do massive diatribes of stuff about slippers or like, what else have I got? I've got kids, like, who even is this? Jabba? Is that Jabba? I don't know. But if that's relevant to you, so if it's important to you that your children have different experiences than you did, that your living room is filled with space toys, then you make sure that that's relevant, you put that in there. Anyway, does that even make any sense? I want your form to sound like you. So where would I write about the fridge, for example, Amber? What I've done is I've brought along my old form. Anyone else who's old enough will see this and go, oh, it's an NRA. But many of you might not be old enough to even know what an NRA is. So the form has changed a little bit since I applied. I would weave it in to the background information sections. I have brought along this year's form because I know there are differences. You just got to make it your own. You've got to weave it in, whatever you can, to make you stand out as being yourself, which is different to anybody else. You've got to be demonstrating and showcasing why you're right for training based on your own reflections and your own experiences of what is going on in your life. So we've got the relevant experience section, relevant experience, other experience. There might be a chance to weave some of that in as well. So, you know, if you feel like you're actually in an older position or a different position than someone else applying this year, then, you know, you could mention about the fact that you haven't had life quite as easy as perhaps I did. Sorry. I got on when I was 27. But you could weave that in there, you could make that relevant. Personal statements. In what way have you and your work and research experiences made you a better candidate for training in clinical psychology? So that's where I'd put it. That's where I'd put and reflect upon some of the things that are relevant to me. Does that make sense? Does that feel like that would be okay? I was wondering, Hannah, how can you weave in diversity without it sounding like you're just using it as a card? I'd probably put that, Hannah. I'd probably reflect upon the fact that there is, you know, for very good reason, a lot of issues around discussions around diversity, and you feel like you find yourself becoming a bit anxious about that, and that you're having to reflect upon that in advance, reflect upon that in action, to check that you are being, I don't know, like genuine and inclusive. So I would probably reflect on it in that kind of way, and perhaps think about how you have been able to address some of that. Georgie, how would you reflect on your personal experience with mental illness? So you can't be stigmatised. This is actually a question that I helped somebody with who contacted me within the last week. So you can't be stigmatised, but I think that would probably be something about your relevant experience, and perhaps something about if there's any bits of your adult life that are kind of unaccounted for. Only share what you're comfortable with sharing, I would say. But if it's relevant and if it's really impassioned you for wanting to either, like I said this in the last week's video, if it's really impassioned you for wanting others to have a similar experience that you've had that was really good, or to rectify and have something be different about stuff that you didn't have that you wish you'd had, then it might be an opportunity to reflect on that. Yeah, Megan, I hear you. It's difficult, isn't it? Because you said here, I've seen some courses talk about the importance of resilience and being robust, which makes me concerned about talking about my lived experience, even though this was years ago. So in my clinical interviews, I was asked, basically tell me about the most difficult time of your life. And I welled up at the time as I was thinking about it, so I really allowed myself to emotionally connect to that. And I know this is a separate conversation. This is for when you guys are preparing for interviews, but I shared actually that I'm human and that I have had difficult times in my life. So I spoke about actually a time where it was September 2007, so just at the point when I was applying for clinical training, and I was involved in a car accident. I just split up with a boyfriend, my choice, a few sort of weeks before that, But splitting up with someone's never easy, is it? Even if it has been your choice. So it was a split with a boyfriend. I was working full-time at the time. I was doing a master's part-time, and then I had a car crash and then needed sort of physio and stuff and was in a lot of pain because of my back. So it was a really difficult time, and I was trying to apply for clinical training. So like I said last time, I was filling in the form constantly. That was my jam. That's what I was doing, and it was just a lot. So whilst I'd moved back in with my parents and was trying to catch up with friends as well, but also trying to think about the next chapter of my career. So it was just a lot. So I reflected on all of that really within the interview. Does that answer your question, Megan? I feel like I'm stuck in the rut, says Melly. Using the personal statement to showcase my clinical skills. Any ideas on how I can get out of this? Now, I know I've kind of said that I'm really pleased with my form, but what have I said? I should have read this before, shouldn't I? This is going to be radio silence. Perhaps I ought to read this. I only found this like 5 minutes before. I suddenly remembered where it was today. I looked for it the other day and couldn't find it, and I remembered it was in the NRA. Yeah. I'll perhaps do a record and put that out and look at my form, because this is not great. This is not great viewing, is it? Having me sit and look at a form. You put this purple beast away. Okay. Has anyone else got any questions? We're up to 195, which is lovely. Luke, agreed to Melly. I feel like I have to put all of my clinical stuff in here and don't get to be more creative and reflect on me as a person and not a practitioner. I guess now might be a good time to say that a lot of people had contacted me to ask me if I could look at their forms or whether they could think about working with me, and how that could happen. So I did actually yesterday create some bits on my site for how people can work with me if they want to. So I've put 10 slots up there for form review at a cost of £50 per form review. I have asked that if you want it done, please only do it if you can send it to me within 72 hours. This is not a get in the queue and reserve the space kind of thing. That's not okay. You've got to be able to send it to me. Or alternatively, if you really want to work through things in person for your unique experiences, then I'm doing career consultation slots as well for £99 for an hour. But this is not what this is about. This is about a free forum, but people have been asking how they can work with me. So I've created the opportunity if that's something that you would want, but this is free and this will remain free, and I want to be able to answer your questions. I think just have a bash, Luke. So maybe just write what you want to write, maybe even separate to the questions. Write what's important to you. Ask yourself why you want to be a clinical psychologist. Try and answer that, and then make sure that that's in there. Make sure that you've weaved that in with this unique sense of your take that you have on the world. Hi, Flick. So, Chloe, I've seen a lot of conflicting advice regarding including reflections on social justice. The narrative on this does seem to be changing, but any guidance on the best approach? If it's important to you, Chloe, then put it. If actually you've got different priorities and different things that you want to showcase, then put that. You can't put everything on the form, nor can you be a perfect person. You can't possibly demonstrate that you are, you're aware of, you're excellent at clinical skills, you're excellent at research, you've got a great work-life balance, do yoga every morning and do all these sorts of things, and you're an excellent parent if you are. You can't do everything. You can't showcase everything. You're going to probably have to pick a couple of different strands of things that are important to you, why you like doing this, and just focus on those. You can't do everything. You can't, sometimes we have to risk not mentioning somebody or not mentioning something because there's not room to do it all. They've really tightened up on the characters as well, I noticed when I looked at the form. There's not really much wiggle room, but you've just got to be yourself. Amina, would you choose to reflect on one main topic or two briefly? I can't decide on 2 situations I want to reflect on and such a limit on characters. It's like you're psychic, Amina. I've just said that. I think that answers your question, hopefully. Nice that we're on the same page, though. Tamara, would you suggest being quite careful about what you put on the other interests outside of psychology section? Tamara, why does that matter? What do you do in your spare time that you're ashamed of? Tell me. Reply to your comment. What are you up to? No. If it's really important to me, then I put it, because it's what makes me me. So, you know, what do I do? What does my life include? CFT is really important to me. So I don't know if you guys have been watching my page lately, but I'm writing a book at the moment. It's about grief. If you've got any grief case studies you'd like to share, please get in contact. But that's important to me. I'm writing a book, and I'm writing a book because I have been bereaved. So my dad passed in 2017, probably about the time I bought these slippers, now I think about it. I think he was poorly at the time. So there's a lot about comfort. So I would probably be basically suggesting that my dad has been replaced with a pair of slippers. That's what I'm talking about. So that's, you know, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So what have you been up to, Tamara? You know, what do I like doing? I like doing yoga. I like doing Pilates. Started interval training. I occasionally talk to my children. I like watching Netflix with my husband. Like that's kind of it at the moment. What else do I like to do? I love laughing with my friends. I love my clinical work. You know, I'd have to put some of that in, wouldn't I, if I was applying? When discussing, Amber says, resilience, etc., would you mention about carrying on applying for AP posts and keep facing rejection and not giving up? Yeah, absolutely. It's really tricky, isn't it, trying to get a foot in the door? But if you've got your eye on the prize, this is what you want. You want to be sitting here with your own set of fancy lights one day. Then you've got to just keep plodding on. So I applied for countless AP posts before I started getting really focused. So before I thought, right, I've got to do something myself here because I'm not getting shortlisted. So like I said last week, I was doing some really great relevant experience, but work with physical disabilities for Milton Keynes Council. But I wasn't getting shortlisted. So no matter what I put, I wasn't getting shortlisted. And so I had to kind of think outside the box and do, like I said, I took 10 days of annual leave and did an honorary AP post. And at that point then I was able to talk the talk and walk the walk. But I needed to be able to reflect. It's all about reflection today. Reflect on action. Think about actually what was missing. I think I probably phoned up and got some feedback. So I know it's difficult because hundreds of people are applying, but you might be the only person who phones up for feedback about why you're not getting shortlisted. If you don't know the answer, then you don't know. You know, you might have been the next one to have been offered an interview, but, you know, 10 people were above you. You might have been the 250th. It's useful to know, you know, what you were competing against so that you know how to carve out your stuff. But yeah, resilience, rejection. I've been rejected 100 times. When I qualified in 2011, there was no jobs. It was like tumbleweed. There was nothing. I was applying for qualified jobs and not getting shortlisted. It was, I would say it's a terrible time, but it did give me lots of time to have some lions and some sleep and some reflection on my course experience. So it's not all bad. You've got to learn to make hay when the sun shines. Right, we've got any other questions? Did you change your form much between applications for the extra work experience? Amelia Lily, beautiful name. Were you a singer in the X Factor? Was she Amelia Lily? Is that you? Yes, I did. I totally started again because I was a different person. A year had passed and I had just found my stride by the time I could please be that singer from X Factor, Amelia Lily. I'd found my stride and yes, I did. I scrapped it. I don't think I even looked at it because I didn't want to be like contaminated by the Marianne of 2006 because I was all about the Marianne of 2007. The Marianne of 2006 hadn't had a breakup. She hadn't had a car crash. You know, she hadn't gone on to her next. I got my next job in the bag. I hadn't started it. The Marianne of 2006 was a very different Marianne of 2007. There was a lot of different stuff going on. So my tip would be, don't even look at it, Amelia. Didn't get you anywhere, did it? Why would we use that again? If you've got application, if you've got interviews, then yes, it might be an exceptional place to start. But I didn't. I didn't get any interviews until I got on. So I got 3 interviews the year I got on. But before that, I'd had like radio silence. So I definitely wasn't going to be using that. Okay. Jenna. I was thinking, about you, me too, in the section of research or work, to give examples of psychological practice and try and incorporate the fact that I changed career in any other section part. But it sounds like you wouldn't advise that. Well, yeah, I definitely would. Yeah, I would. I would advise that. Because, you know, you were going along. You were getting up, doing your 9 to 5, and you thought, really? Is this it? What about that psychology job that I always fancied? So I would reflect on that. If it's important to you, if you did a complete, you know, change of career, then you did that for a reason, and that's something unique to you. But you'll also have all the stuff to bring with you from your old career. So I definitely would think about reflecting on that. Georgie. I am in my first application. Oh gosh, I've lost you, Georgie. Sorry. And I'm worried about standing out against those who have A, more experience clinically, B, have more experience completing the form. I'm also worried about the mainly conflicting bits of advice I've read about different sections. Not really any specific question, really, just trying not to play the comparison game and failing slightly. Yeah, just got to take a breath, Georgie. Just got to allow yourself to be you. You know, when I was applying, I was sharing an office with the lovely Laura. I don't think she's with us tonight, but we used to do things like cat eyes out of tigers. Like I've never had my own office since, but when I was an assistant, we had our own office and it was great. And there was a cuddly toy tiger, and it was to make it safe for a patient who might have hurt themselves with these tiger eyes. So we were digging these tiger eyes out. Anyway, me and Laura would have done very different applications because we were very different people, both very capable, both very competent, both working as APs. But we didn't discuss our forms because there would be no point in my making myself sound like Laura, because I wasn't. And she couldn't have made herself sound like Marianne because she wasn't. So you need to be you, Georgie. That's what I've got to say. So try not to compare yourself. I'd seen on a Facebook group someone asking if anyone would mind sending their form to someone else. And I just found myself thinking, oh God, what are you doing? Because I don't think people are qualified on that group. There might be some other qualifieds, but people have said, yeah, please feel free, send me your form. And whilst there's an abundance mindset of there being enough for everybody and you getting there when the time is ready, I would not have been that girl. Not the third time, not the time I got on. My form was not let out of my sight. You know, it stayed in my parents' house. It didn't get taken to work. It was all about me and my time and making sure that form was purely me. So I did show it to, you know, my clinical supervisor, and I think my previous honorary supervisor, but other than that I didn't show it to anybody. I just wasn't. Maybe you guys are more free and giving and have got more of that abundant mindset now, but I wasn't in a position where I was going to be emailing my form to my competitors. I just wasn't, because I was really proud of it as well, and I thought I'd done a good job. So just if you feel like you need that feedback and you want that feedback, that might be an important reflection to make as well. I feel like I've been really mean now, like saying don't share your form, but for me it was something deeply personal. But that's just me, you know. You tuned in, there's 185 of you watching. You can't all hate me, so you must think I've got something reasonable to say. Dana. Oana. Dana? My eyes are ruined without these glasses. Oana. Glasses and me are new. It's like a 2020 thing. I had perfect vision last year. Things are falling apart. Would you recommend reflecting on both clinical and research experience in the experience section? Would it be beneficial having an equal amount of space for both? I think I did. Or I think is there still a section for publications? So what I did, so is there still a massive section on the back? You're going to be zooming in on what I said now, aren't you? There was a massive section that was experiences relevant to you as a potential clinical psychologist. So at the time there was, please discuss your occupational and research experience and tell us how this is relevant to your application. What have you, capital letters you, gained from these experiences that would be helpful to you as a clinical psychologist? Please include details of any publications resulting from your research work in this section. So what I did was I broke it down into client work, training and supervision, education and research, including my publications, but I think I did spot there's another area for publications now, and then a summary. So what I wanted to do was make the very last bit a summary so that people could see what I was all about. Shall I read you my summary? That doesn't feel too indulgent, does it? In January 2008, I will commence work with adolescents at an NHS secure training centre. I look forward to the increased insight this will offer into the role of a clinical psychologist and in enhancing my diverse clinical experience. I believe my work to date has imparted a realistic picture of the tasks undertaken by clinical psychologists and of the difficulties inherent in this role. I would welcome the opportunity to further develop my knowledge and skills through clinical training and would bring with me enthusiasm and a strong commitment towards becoming an effective, confident, empathic professional within the NHS. And actually, I think I've managed it. And that is what I would say if you're applying to any jobs as well through the NHS jobs. What I would say is at the top of your application where you write all about yourself is put a summary like that in about why you're applying to this role. So I would often put things like, I saw this role and I was really excited to apply because of X, Y, Z. So I think if there's room for a summary, I included one because if I'm shortlisting forms, I'm going to be a bit bored. I want you to tune back in to me at the end. Why am I right for this? And I will look at the form better for next time to see if there is room for that. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, Oana, and I've said your name right. Hi, Lindsay O'Keefe, are you still there? Natasha, how many years of applying to the doctorate did it take for you to be accepted? Third time lucky, Natasha. Jamie, sorry for changing the subject. What do you want to do, talk about fridges? I'm really struggling with the question around publication and dissemination resulting from my work. I've not been published but have done my MSc dissertation, which I can discuss. What would you put in there if you haven't been published? There's still time, Jamie. Could you reach out to anyone who's doing any research? Did you watch my video last week? I think I mentioned it in there. Could you get involved with any trainees and do honorary research assistant for them? Sometimes you might just need to call a spade a spade. You might need to recognise that that's something that you've still got to do. What I did mention last time that I do need to rectify, because I think I got slightly wrong, is that, I said that I'd done a presentation and that I'd listed that as a publication. I have actually remembered that was a presentation at a research conference. I think you can probably only count things as a publication if it is research based. If, Jamie, you happen to have had a grief experience, write for my book and count that as a publication. But yeah, I would, still time, December's the deadline. Think about where you can strengthen your research experiences between now and then. You can't make stuff up, so if you haven't done much research, then you haven't done much research. But I don't know if you work for the NHS at the moment, Jamie, but what I did, I think during training rather than as an assistant, was I joined the NHS research sort of organisation stream so that I could go along and get involved as well. So it's an excellent chance to do that if you've got something local to you. There might be some local research networks for psychologists, and see if you can get involved and just, you know, my first publication was writing up someone else's research, so I think I ended up as third author of 4. So if you're working in a department where anyone's doing any research, ask if they want any help with writing up, because you can then get listed as a publication on that. So that was my first publication, if that's at all useful, Jamie. We're still up to 183, so you must not be completely bored or think that I'm not giving good advice. Yes, I did, Natalie, you were listening. I did get accepted the 3rd time. Samuel, is this live session being recorded so we can watch it when offline? Yes it is. You need to leave. You've probably left already. We're losing people all the time. Yes, it will be like last week. So when I finish, it says, do you want to publish it to your feed? And I go, yes, please. Anne, would you reflect on being a parent? It means a lot to me being a mum, but also don't want to overdo it in the form. I'm not even sure if courses see it as at a disadvantage being an employee. Hope this question makes sense. And my boys are my life. I would. You're having a different experience than anybody else who doesn't yet have children. So I got back from work today, and the first thing I saw was my 4-year-old standing in the porch. Daddy not at all happy because he's playing Xbox, the 4-year-old, not Daddy, and got distracted by time and pooed himself. You will know all about that, Anne. This does somewhat throw spanners in the works. You need to reflect on the fact that you've perhaps more squeezed for time and that you've got different hurdles, but there's a different reason for wanting to do this at this point in your life, because you want a better life for yourselves and your children, if that's why indeed you are doing this. You know, there's a reason that's driven you to either take a gap to have children or to have a different career after you've had children. It's got to sound like you. I would say you've got to be your genuine self. So if I had been a mother at the time, then I definitely would have reflected on that. Don't hide your light under a bushel. You are going to be a different clinician because you're a mummy. I'm a much better clinician now that I'm a mother and now that I've been bereaved. Not that you can't be an excellent clinician without being a mother or parent, should I say, or you know, when you haven't been bereaved, but it certainly throws new challenges in that you have to be able to adapt and run with. Does that answer your question, lovely Anne? Christina, yes, you can watch it later. Oh, Jodie, I'm stuck with the character limit and trying to cover everything. Oh, I feel your pain. I find this with Twitter. I know it's not at all the same, but Twitter is just a nightmare. I only joined Twitter because someone asked if they could share one of my blog posts. If you haven't read my blog post yet, please check out my website. Ding! Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I find myself changing to the ampersand instead of the word and. I think you just got to pick the stuff that feels like it's important to you. Try taking bits out, see if you miss it. If you do, fling it back in. Take something else out instead. Hi, Kyle. You're going to retrain. Tamara. I've heard conflicting things about ensuring you mention interests that demonstrate characteristics key to being a clinical psychologist, not just noting general interests. No. Why would you want to only be a clinical psychologist 24/7? That's not a real person. That's not someone I want to be my psychologist. My forehead is getting shinier, isn't it? That's not someone I want. No. I don't know if you follow my page, but I think it was yesterday, I'm a human first and a psychologist second. I want to know, Tamara, if I screen your form, I want to know what makes you you. So I think I put that I liked singing in my form, but that because I like my friends, I tried not to sing when they were in the car. So I was getting a bit of my sense of humour in there. But yeah, no, not just, well, what would your clinical psychologist interests be? Like, just going to research groups and volunteering with the Samaritans. What would be your, Tamara, what would be your clinical psychologist hobbies? The problem is that I think when my husband met me, like, he was surprised I didn't have more hobbies. But I was like, well, I love my job. Like, I don't feel like I necessarily need loads of hobbies. So you could reflect on that as well. If you feel like your stuff is mainly clinical psychologist-y. Someone doing a tear face because my husband thought I was boring when he met me. Didn't think I was that boring. Yeah, like, I really like my life. I like what I'm doing. And so I didn't feel the need to have like loads of stuff that was really, really different to what I was doing. I didn't necessarily feel like I needed a break from work that needed to be really different. So if you're the same, Tamara, reflect on that. Does that answer your question? Oh, can you speak up a bit? Sorry, Ebony. Kids are asleep. Husband's busy playing Xbox. Didn't want to be too loud. Is anyone else struggling to hear me? I've never been asked to speak up before. I'm really quite loud usually. Sophie, I remember your name. I think you contacted me, didn't you? Did you ever consider applying for the counselling psychology doctorate, given how competitive clinical ones are? No, Sophie, I didn't, because I'd never even heard of it until I was on placement, and then the lovely Vanessa was with me. Oh, my husband tuned in to watch. I expect he's wandered off and got bored by now, though. If you, Aisling, if you had a negative experience with clinical psychologists during an AP role, but believe you have come out of that experience for the better, should you mention the negative experience, or would this come across badly? Yeah, if it's relevant, if it empowers you to want to become a different clinical psychologist, definitely. But it might not have been about the discipline, so you could just talk about it being somebody else within a department. Yeah. We don't want to name and shame people either, do we? So you could just think about it being someone within a department, unless it was something specific about being a clinical psychologist, like this person said, you're never going to be a clinical psychologist. I don't know that you necessarily need to name and shame the discipline, but if it's useful for you to reflect on, then yeah, why wouldn't you? It's obviously affected you to make you want to do things differently or have a different experience. So yeah, I definitely think about if you can weave that in. Robbie Chandler's watching. You're late to the party, Robbie. I was wondering, should I reflect on my... this is Daniela. I was wondering, should I reflect on my weaknesses in the form, or is that something to mention during the interviews? I would. Yeah, I think in the section when I applied... Let me get out my dusty old form that's not relevant anymore. I think there was even a section about reflecting on your weaknesses. There was. So in your view, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the roles clinical psychologists undertake, and what aspects of these roles appeal to you, and what do you think you'd find more difficult? So it was inviting you to not be a perfect clinician. What they don't want is someone who is already a clinical psychologist. They need to be seeing that you've got room to be shaped. You can't be saying, I am the full ticket, I am everything, because if you were, then you wouldn't need training, you'd already be a clinical psychologist. So I think you've got to be able to accept that you're a human and that you have vulnerabilities. I do believe that was a little like from Cara. I recognised your picture, Cara. You've got to showcase why you're ready for training. And training is 3 years of intensive development and training to have you then become a qualified clinical psychologist. Does that make sense? So you've got to be showcasing that you've got some weaknesses, but you've got to just counter those with some of the things that you do really well. So if you just send them like 4 pages of I am awful, you're probably not going to get shortlisted. But if you're able to balance some of that, then it's gonna look better for you. So Caitlin says, it'd be great to discuss what the courses want for the question, what would you hope to gain from training? Okay, well, this is a bit naughty, isn't it, reading my form to you? But that basically is the question that I just said. I'll read my form and I'll get back to you on that one, Kaylin. I don't want radio silence. That's not great viewing, is it? Still got 169 of you that are hanging on in there, waiting for a nugget of something useful. Fabiola, what a beautiful name. I want to say it again, Fabiola. How likely is it to be shortlisted for the clinical doctorate after a CWP or PWP training? What I would say, Fabiola, is it quite depends how long you've done it for. It quite depends probably on your age and what experiences you've had before that. It quite depends on probably how well versed you are in being around psychologists and how independent you've been able to be on that and reflect on it. So I don't explicitly know the answer to that question because the PWP training came about, I think, when I was already on training. So I don't think anyone on my course was doing that at that point, but I would say it's not unlikely. You don't always need to have done assistant psychologist or research psychologist. I said last time that my course, there was someone who was an ex-teacher and someone who was an ex-nurse. You just need to showcase why you are right for training right now. Excuse me. Oh, Amelia Lilly, you're not her. Can you sing? That was her name though, wasn't it, Amelia? There was an Amelia Lilly. Kiara, beautiful name. I really struggle with trying to condense my words. What's the best way to reflect on our experience in 3,000 characters? Really good question. I would say just have a blank canvas. Write everything you want to write, however long that is, and then just get cutting. So just be left with the stuff that is like the golden nuggets. That's what you need to be doing. So write what you want to write and then condense it. Take out bits. See how it looks without that. So I think I had various different versions of the form that I was doing, and I would come back to it and I would think about, actually, there was something missing there. I'm not happy with that. I feel like there was something wanting, something lacking, and I'd come back to it. Does that make sense? So put everything you want to put and then take it out, then take out the bits you can't fit. Elizabeth Rose, I applied 3 times. Laura Beth, I was wondering on your thoughts on how to incorporate factual information like your clinical skills and clinical experience with a unique stance, e.g. social diversity. Were you around when I answered some of the social diversity question? I guess it would depend on why you're doing that. Are you doing that just to reflect on social diversity, or are you doing that because it's important to you? You can't possibly reflect on everything. What would I do in that situation? Maybe you're saying that you don't feel like you've had a lot of diversity. I guess I ended up working in Birmingham. I applied for a job in Birmingham. If I'd recognised that my CV was a little lacking in diversity, then I might reflect upon that and put in my application that actually I have been applying for jobs that will help me to fill that gap in my CV that allows me to work with a more diverse range of clients. Does that make sense? So you can recognise actually you haven't had that much diverse experience. You know, so if you've grown up in Middle Britain where there just isn't that much diversity, then you won't have necessarily had that much opportunity to work clinically with people who are diverse. So I would just be honest about that and say that it's something that you really are looking forward to doing in training. So by the time I finished training, because I'd done some of my placements in Birmingham and Coventry, I had done a lot of sessions weekly with interpreters, and that's something really rare. So when I was being interviewed, I was able to say that, and that's something that, you know, I was comfortable working in a therapy setting with interpreters, and that was something really rare. So yeah, if you've done that, or if you want to do more of that, then maybe just think about the areas of the country, if that is at all possible, where you apply for jobs. Does that make sense, Laura? Anita, I'm a bit apprehensive about applying for the doctorate as I'm in training as a PWP at the moment, wondering whether you thought leaving a funded training position for another one would not look great on the form. Who cares? It's up to you. If that's what you want to do, and if we're honest, if you just did the PWP to get your foot in the door, so be it. I only did half my masters, but I do believe I got the full credit for it, because that's how it worked then. It might still be how it works then. So because I'd started it, I was ticked as a master's, but I only did 1 year, so I didn't get the full MSc. I didn't do the thesis aspect. I did mine through Newman College, so I think they still do it now. They do. You can do it whilst working full time. You probably missed the boat this year. You might still be able to get yourself involved if you want to, anybody. But yeah, so I was doing that part-time masters whilst working full-time. I've forgotten what I was saying. Yeah, so I left halfway through. You know, I got offered a place on clinical training. What am I going to do? Am I going to say no? I'm going to defer because I'm going to finish my masters when I've been offered a place on the, you know, the golden train. So no, you've got to look after yourself, Anita. It might not be the thing that you're proudest about, but we all do things we're not proud about. You know, but we do them because we've got to live our true selves, you know. You might not get on the first time anyway, Anita. It might just, some courses when I was applying like to see perseverance and like to see you coming back again. So it might be that now's not quite the time for you anyway, but give it a bash. I don't think it hurts. Laura, I was also wondering if there is any major difference between your form that you applied with when you were successful compared to those from the years before. Yes, the other two were rubbish, Laura. I tried to find it for you because ideally I wanted to read my first ever form to you so you could see how awful it was. I couldn't. I'll have to see if I can find it somewhere. But yeah, I wasn't ready, Laura. So the first time I applied, I think I only had my physical disability post with the council. I'd done supporting disabled students at university. I'd been a home carer, and I'd done my honorary post with an assistant psychologist. But I just wasn't geared up enough to think about what a clinical psychologist does. So I just wasn't able to draw on that and reflect on that, and I wasn't comfortable in my own skin enough yet to reflect on that really. So whatever you're going to do, whatever you're going to say, own it, make it yours, and reflect on that. Be proud of your form, be proud of yourself, and if you're not in a position to do that just yet, then maybe that's not for you. So I don't know if anyone caught, it sounds awful, did anyone catch my BBC interview on the news a couple of weeks ago? I think it was the 2nd of September. I'd previously been asked to do This Morning a couple of years ago, and I said no, because I just wasn't ready. It just wasn't my time. I found myself being like, oh, but I haven't had my eyebrows threaded and my roots are dreadful. And yet there I was on the BBC News with my lockdown eyebrows and not having my roots done since February, because I don't care. I am me. Did I introduce myself at the start? Maybe not. I am Dr. Marianne Trent, and I'm good at my job, and I love my job, and I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability, and that's what you're getting. That's why 162 of you are here, and I want you, when you are ready to get on training, to be similarly proud and say, oh, I feel like there's a showman song coming on. This is me. I'm not going to sing it to you. Because you've got to be your genuine self. This has got to be right for you. Oh, the likes are going up. The showman reference was a good one. Okay. Oh, Sandra. And my neighbour Paul. Thanks, Paul. Hi. Would you advise mentioning if you have children? I did mention that earlier, Jenna. Yes, because they are your mini beasts and they are your life. So they can't view it as negatively. And don't forget that the people that are shortlisting your form are likely to be parents themselves. Because most of us shortlisting forms are going to be at least 30, aren't we, really? By the time we finish training. I think I was 30. Yeah. What would you be achieving by missing that out? Because it's the first thing you'd be telling them on day one of clinical training, isn't it? You know, I've got kids, and they're a nightmare. Yours aren't, I'm sure. Rotendo, beautiful name. What did you think was the major change you made in your application year in which you got interviews and were accepted compared to your previous applications? Maybe, Rotendo, it was the fact that, I don't know if you watched last week's, I got more points because I broke things down differently. So I'd been employed by St Andrews, and I'd been doing a split post across 3 different wards, and the year that I got on, I might have done it even the year before, I'm not sure, but I split those 3 posts down as 3 separate jobs because there were 3 different wards and I did 3 very different roles in them. But also, by the time I got on, I was able to put that I was going to be starting at the youth prison, so I got another tick for that. Although now they've been a bit naughty, and they make you calculate it in terms of full-time months equivalent, so I probably wouldn't have got any points for that job that I hadn't yet started, would I? But at the time, things were perhaps a little bit easier. So I was just myself, and I was comfortable in my own skin, Rotendo. That's the main difference. I wasn't trying to be anybody else. I didn't look at anybody else's form that year. I was just me and comfortable with it. God, we've been an hour, guys. I go to bed at 9:15, so we're going to have to wrap this up soon. Rock and roll. Victoria, would applying based on clinical experience as a speech and language therapist, in addition to previous varied healthcare and support worker experience, would it be a disadvantage without AP experience? Understand what you mean, Victoria. I'm sorry. So have you been a SALT before? I don't understand. I'm sorry. Perhaps come back and ask me. Melly's back. I wanted to put in my application that I had a baby in lockdown, and that I feel like this has changed my perception on life struggles and a change in the way I view getting onto the course now. I want it more now for my son as well as me. Is this putting? I would definitely put that in. Gosh, what a joy! Congratulations, Melly Moo. Congratulations. Honestly, your life would have changed. If I was you, my child would still be sitting on my lap as I watch this video. Come on, baby. Shh. Try to listen to the lady. Shh. Look at the lady. Look at her glasses. Yeah, you know, your son's changed your life, so be genuine about that. I would, for sure. Sophie, are you at a disadvantage applying with experience as a therapist and not AP experience? No, I don't think so. Just reflect on that. If you can at all get somebody that's qualified to review your form or to be a reference, that would be superb. Amber, currently taking 1.5 years out of work as I've moved to France. Oh, that sounds lovely. Have you had some lovely French bread today? That would be nice. How can I explain about having this time out of working? I'm worried about having a gap in my career history, especially at the point of applying. Reflect on that. Say that your relationships were important to you and you wanted to be able to support your partner, and that what are you doing in France? Are you, just, I don't know, picking blackberries and making jam, or are you doing something? What are you doing, and why was it important for you? And are you not having a wonderful time? Is that not all amazing? I had 6 months out to travel the world in 2003 after I graduated, and I still reflect on those experiences daily. I still think how lucky I was to be able to do that, and I draw on that. So in time, 5 years' time, Amber, I hope that maybe you're on a course, if that's still what you want at that time, you're going to be reflecting on this time in France, because that's going to be part of your fabric, part of what made you you. So yeah, that's fine. If you've done it and you're proud of it and you're owning it, then reflect on that. Charlotte, if someone has no formal publications or dissemination, say as a conference, would it be best to leave that box empty or put things in like service evaluation reports? Yeah. Just do what you can and think about how you can strengthen your application for next time. Do you know how you might get on this time, you might not need to, but they do like you to have some research element. Hannah, do you know how we can find out which universities made the best fit so we don't publish their shortlist criteria? I don't think the alternative guide is overly helpful. For instance, I know I would have more luck and be a better fit for a course that focuses on clinical experience. I do what I did. I read the Clearinghouse book. Do they still publish that? Can you still buy that? I think I paid extra to have that. And I highlighted the courses I liked. And I didn't highlight the ones I didn't. I wasn't going to apply for a course I didn't like, that didn't feel like a good fit for me. So that's going to be different to you than it is to somebody else. It's got to be your opinion of what you think sounds good. Reading someone else's opinion in the handbook is not going to serve you well, because they will have a different experience of it. So I qualified with COV, and I loved the course. I loved training. I loved it. I did. But probably not everyone else had that same experience of the same course. So you bring your own unique resilience and coping skills to the situation, and you've got to be you. Right, guys, we're running out of time. Jodie, they want publications and dissemination, so how you share your work also counts. I do work with the NHS. I'm a PWP and an AP before. Katie Powers. Sorry, I don't mean to read surnames. Sorry. That doesn't help you be anonymous, does it? My work experience is mostly in research, but a fair bit involves participant contact, delivering outcome assessments, interviews, etc. I want to focus on the participant contact, but I don't want to take away from the other skills I've developed. As a researcher, I'm aware of the character limit. Any suggestions on how to give these different side of my role the proper airtime? That's a big question there. You've just got to be yourself. So you've just got to blend that together in a way that describes why you like doing your job and why you're good at it and how it's taught you some of the clinical skills. So you'll be doing research interviewing as part of your thesis. You might be, you might not be, but you're going to be using those skills to present at ward rounds. You're going to be using those skills to take to supervision to do case presentations. You're going to be using those skills that you've built up with research interviews to get a good rapport with people. So you've just got to reflect on some of that. Does that make sense? Kiara, if you're currently in process of doing a research project which will not be completed before the deadline, can we include this in the publication and research section? Do you know which publication you're going to try and submit to? Have you started writing it up? Can you make contact to see if they're going to be interested in publishing it? Just see what you can do. Doesn't hurt, you know. You could say to be written up and submitted to. If you haven't got anything else to put there, you might as well, and talk about the research that you took part in. We are running out of time, guys. I'm going to give it until 25 past. It's like give my kids a warning before bedtime. Amina, if the publications are pending or just beginning, how would you recommend we word it in the publication section? Okay, I've answered that question, but I hope that's useful. Natalie's answering a question for someone for me, thank you. Cara's laughing because I name checked you and I recognised your name, your little picture. Oh, we still got loads of people watching, that's good. We're losing numbers, so I think we're losing some momentum. Perhaps people are putting the kids to bed or just had enough of me droning on. Natalie, I'd like to add my MSc as relevant experience to list my research skills. For this evening, I'm going to have a drink. Sorry, it's a long question, isn't it? Let me start again. CV section, not the personal statements section. But just wondered how to add it, i.e. for the date from and date to, would you just add the beginning and end date of the MSc? And what would you put for the hours? I can't get my head around the question, Natalie, I'm sorry. Do you do that in relevant experience, or do you just do that in academia? I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know whether you can count it twice. But you could be very well evidencing the strong ability to think outside the box there, Natalie. That might be really useful. If you don't have enough relevant experience, then yeah, that might be really useful. you might have just scored yourself some extra bonus points. So if you haven't got any extra stuff to put in the relevant experience, then absolutely pop that in. Becky Heath's watching. Oh, there we go. Lauren says, hi Fabiola, I was shortlisted last year and I'm a CWP, so that's really good. Chloe, if you feel your clinical experience is really strong, maybe your academia lets you down by only meeting the minimum requirements, but doesn't exceed that, e.g. you've got a 2-1, not a first, or a merit, not a distinction, how can you demonstrate in your form that you're academically capable enough for the course? Don't be ashamed of your 2-1. Like 2-1s are great, 2-1s are enough. If you've got a low 2-1, I know that Leicester was saying they wouldn't even shortlist you because they wanted you to do a master's. So if you recognise that you need some more academia, use this time, reach out and get yourself more academically strengthened. But a 2-1 is great, but I know that they do look for perhaps thinking about masters. So maybe the Newman option is a good one for you, thinking about doing some part-time distance learning, which I think is all distance learning now. Right, guys, how are we doing for my self-imposed deadline? 5 minutes, okay. Because I go to bed at 9:15. It's just rock and roll. Still got 131. Oh, we were 132. We've lost one. Evie, I was wondering, would you talk about areas that are your key interest within psychology and possibly what direction you may want to go with your thesis and research, or do they not expect this from you yet? I had no clue. But if you are really driven to come into psychology to make waves in a certain area and that is going to be you, then by all means talk about it. But if you don't know yet, then don't make something up, just to put something on the form. You definitely don't need to know. In your first year, you will have a number of people come in. I was one of them recently, and I am now supervising two trainees for their research because they liked what I had to say about the ACE scale, so adverse childhood experiences. So people are on training and like, I have no idea what I'm going to do my research on. And then someone will come in and they'll do a presentation and they see it and they go, actually, that really floats my boat, that really connects with me. So don't worry if you don't know yet, that's fine. I certainly didn't. I did mine on stroke and the partners of people who had stroke and whether that impacted on their own ability to want to modify their modifiable risk factors for stroke. Amelia Lilly, does it make sense to apply for the places surrounding you because it will be close to your ageing parents and where you want to settle down? Or is that shutting off other potentially better opportunities? Only you can answer that, Amelia. If that's right for you and that's what you're doing, then you can put that. You recognise that you are not just a clinical psychologist and that your parents are very important to you, and therefore you're applying to the courses that will make it better fit for you to be happy where you're at personally and professionally, because it's important to you and your values to be able to support your parents and look after them. So I would reflect on some of that if that feels appropriate to do so. How are we doing for time? 2 minutes. I'm going to get 2 more questions in. Thank you for your reply, Amina. You're welcome. I wondered if it's appropriate also for the research we've discussed. We're planning to publish but has not been submitted yet at all. I presume. I think I've answered that question. Phoebe. I'm working within substance misuse treatment at present, have experience with mental health but through voluntary work. Does not having a fully focused mental health paid position limit my application? I don't think so, no. If it's really relevant and it's voluntary, it still goes on your whole time equivalent, so probably depends on how much of it you've done. But no, I don't think so. I could work as an honorary clinical psychologist if I wanted to, and my work would still be as valid. So no, I don't think so. Amelia, how do they tell you're coming back again for another application? Do you mention that? They just keep a log. So Clearinghouse would just, it's probably something that goes on your form, or it's electronic now, isn't it? But they just know, because Clearinghouse do all the applications, so they would know. And maybe they've got their own internal spreadsheets that they will know. Susanna, you might be my last question. I was wondering how you can reflect in your application that if your IELTS language certificate doesn't meet the band requirements of the course you apply for, are you still quite confident and competent in English? I don't know the answer. I'm sorry. What I would do is I would call the individual courses that you're applying to and ask them. They will know. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm really sorry. Can you reapply? Can you do that again, get that certificate so that it does meet their criteria? I don't know. Okay. My mum's watching. I've heard that splitting it down into different posts is frowned upon, as it suggests you're trying to make out you've had more jobs or experience than you have. It worked for me, Amy, and I was doing 3 different roles across 3 different wards. So if it was all one ward, then I wouldn't have done that. But, you know, I had 2 different supervisors as well. So do what works for you, do what feels genuine to you. But for me, it was 3 different jobs on 3 very different wards. One was challenging behaviour, one was an open ward, and one was a forensic ward. So they were 3 very different client groups. So that's why I did it that way. But if it was all the same clients, then it wouldn't have felt genuine to do that. But my experiences on an open ward were going to be very different to my experiences on a male forensic personality disordered ward. So that's why I did that, because they were very different. Does that make sense? Ah, Susie worked at St Andrews and now at a secure training centre. I wonder if you work where I work. Do you work at Milton Keynes? Is that where you were working? I used to work at Oak Hill. Maybe that's where you are, Susie. Right, one more question, guys, and then I'm going to spend a bit of time with my husband, thank him for putting these lovely lights up for me and dressing my set. And this isn't particularly about the application, Joanna. How intensive is the course itself? Is it 9 to 5 days during the week and then doing revision, etc. on weekends? No. In my experience, Joanna, it wasn't. So placement days would be, in the first year of my course, it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. University days would be Monday and Friday. But sometimes you get study days. Some courses actually give you every Friday as a study day. I made sure, I think that all the courses give you the same amount of study days across the 3 years. So in our course, in the first year, you didn't get as many study days. They saved them for later on. I was really careful that I used my study days to actually study. It was very rare for me, certainly in the first and second year, to be doing any work at weekends, because I used my study days. So if you work hard, and in our course we got pass or fail for our essays as well, which I think was quite useful because it meant that I was just doing enough. So yeah, you know, I did anyway on my course. I knew when my deadlines were going to be. Right at the start of the year, so I could plan those into my diary. So they're not coming as a surprise. Oh, thanks, Nat. I'm sure you're not there anymore, but my friend who is qualified is watching us from Italy and saying that this is really useful. Thanks, Nat. Right, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up here. But what I will do is, over the next couple of days, if you've asked a question, I will reply to it, okay, because that seems fair. Has it been useful today? Can I get some thumbs up, some kind of level of something from people if you found this useful? Oh, yeah, we've got some stuff coming through, that's good. Oh, you're at Rainsbrook. Oh, not far away from me at all. Oh, I'm getting lots of likes. Thank you, guys. Would it be useful to do this again next week? Is that something you would like? Can I get some love, if that would be useful? Do you want to see me again? Have you had enough? You want more of the slippers, isn't it? It's not me, it's the slippers. Okay. Husband might be out next week, so we might have less lights. I'll have to see what I can do. But it's going to be, this works for me, 7:15 on a Monday. Oh, I'm getting lots of love. People want this. That's good. Oh, 2 pages of notes, Amelia Lily. Oh, I do love your name. Apply to X Factor if this doesn't work out. Okay, it's been useful. Thanks, guys. Like I said, if you find yourself wonking? if you find yourself wanting some more of me, then, and you're thinking about how you can work with me and whether you would want some kind of consultation for your career and your CV for how to tailor things, then there's the option of the £99 thing, which you might have seen on my website. So you can work with me and we'll spend an hour together via Zoom thinking about how to tailor make your CV and think about what direction you want your career to go in, and to go through your form together if that is useful. Similarly, if you want me to review your form, then that's £50. Just buy a slot and then send me your form within 72 hours. But like I said, this is free. You don't need to pay for this. And I wanted this to be able to level the playing field. If you don't have access to a qualified clinical psychologist, I wanted to level that playing field so that you could have some time with a qualified to reflect on things. So I've created those options because a couple of people have asked how they can do that and whether I would do that. So, but not compulsory. Right. Thank you so much, all 100 of you that are left. I will, when I click finish, ask for them to post this to my page. So this will be coming up. Thank you for your time. I know that evenings are precious. Oh, it's time to go because my battery is running out on my phone. I think I need a new phone because it was 100% when I started and we're now on 20. Thank you so much. So like I said, it will be available for replay. Feel free to ask any questions and I will go through the comments and try to respond to anything that I've missed. I'm sorry if I didn't understand some of the questions or if I didn't get a good flavour for it. Like I said, this is just my opinion. I am qualified. This is just my opinion. You've got to do what works for you. Okay, right. Check out my website, check out my blogs, check out the Tricky Brain kit, which I've created for compassion-focused therapy. It's available via my website. It's very good. Thank you very much. I have been Dr. Marianne Trent, and I look forward to catching up with you again next week. Take care, guys. Bye.